Oh, hello everyone. I think I'm live now. Let me know if you can hear me and see me. My name is Jen Dyes of Status Coup. And everyone say a big Shana Tova, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, to Jordan and Anat. A happy Jewish New Year. So Jordan will not be here today. He is spending some time with family. Well deserved, very well deserved. I hope you guys are all okay. I'll be honest with you, I'm not feeling super duper. And I debated just kind of canceling the show for today, but I really want to talk about this topic. It's a hard topic. It's a sad topic. It's an infuriating topic. And of course, I'm talking about Sandy Hook. 2012 is when Sandy Hook happened, when all those children were murdered. And here we are. So we'll talk about the latest with the lawsuit against Remington, which is essentially dissolved now as of 2020. And the insurance companies are heading things up, trying to offer the parents of murdered children, ages 6 and 7 or so at the time, trying to pay them off with much less than they should even be considering giving them. There's nothing that can return the children to take back the events of that horrible day, but the families deserve something. And what's happening right now is not it. It is not it. Koi Hoshi in the chat says, I hope you feel better, Jen. I'm sorry you don't feel well. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just feeling kind of, as part of my COVID long hauler symptoms, I can get overheated, and I was trying to get some things ready before the show started. And so that affects my heart rate, and my body now at this time has a hard time kind of regulating itself, if that makes any sense. But that's okay. The news goes on. The world goes on. And you all help to make me feel so much better. Please smash the like button. Share this stream wherever you're watching. We want to get this out to as many people as possible. Colin just sent out a text message with the link to this. So welcome to all who received the text message. You can't rely on YouTube or any other site to let you know when we're live. They seem to not get around to sending anyone any notifications. So we want to notify you directly when we're live or when we have important breaking news and stories. Go to statuscoup.com/text, and we will send you a text message whenever we're live, whenever there's something we know you don't want to miss. Do it, guys, do it. All the cool kids are heading on over to that link. Hey, Henry saying, I was wondering if Status Coup is going to be on today. Yeah, I completely apologize for how delayed this stream is. I meant to go live around 5 o'clock, and then I started to not feel so great. And I debated, I got some more stuff ready, but you guys are the draw. You guys are it. You're why I'm here. It's time to report the news. So definitely later than I intended, but that's all right. That is all right, because you're here, I'm here, the news is here. I hope you all had a good Labor Day weekend. I know Labor Day weekend does not mean the same thing to everyone, because some folks get time off, get the weekend off, make it a long weekend. Others have to work just as many hours as they do on other days. So I hope that you guys were all able to take at least some time for yourself, no matter what your situation is. Monica, $5 in the super chat. Super chats are very much appreciated. We're completely independent. Saying, POTS is a tough thing. I wish for you great well-being, Jen. Thank you, Monica. That really means a lot. I've been getting down and out about it, to be honest, lately. I want to do so many things for my kids and with my kids and for the business. And in journalism, and my body is not cooperating. So I've got to, make adjustments. I've got to figure out what I can do, what I can't do, and what I can do to try to improve my situation. And part of that is continuing to report the news. I've got some more COVID info for you guys today that we'll talk about, including some scary statistics, some things that scare me, some scary polling that they've done with Republicans. So we've been live for almost 6 minutes or so. Smash the like button, share this stream. Again, today we are talking about Sandy Hook. There is an ongoing lawsuit with the families, several families of those who were murdered. And this lawsuit is against Remington, which is a gun manufacturer. And it's been ongoing with, courts having to decide if this was even allowed, if you can sue, the manufacturer of a gun. It is now at the point where, yes, they can. Remington is bankrupt, essentially out of business, making the Bushmaster assault rifles, Armalite rifles, if you will. I know people are sticklers for that. And it seems like maybe the families will get some justice, but Remington, or rather the insurance companies that now represent Remington, are doing some really disgusting things, including some things that egg on Sandy Hook conspiracy theorists. So we will dive into that. We will do some deep dives into Sandy Hook, which again is a really difficult topic. I know for everyone. For me, I'll tell you a little bit more about how Sandy Hook, was in my mind. I don't want to obviously make it about myself, but my oldest child was the same age as those kids. And I just remember they locked down his school. There was a threat called into my son's school. And so this news about Sandy Hook was on, and they wouldn't let us parents into my kid's school. I live in Maryland, not Connecticut, but people were freaking out. Threats were being called into different schools. And I've never felt such fear. I became obsessed with the case. Every breaking piece of information I wanted to gobble up about Newtown, about Sandy Hook, about the Lanza family, about Adam Lanza. I followed it just obsessively. And probably, to the detriment of my mental health. Again, my oldest was that same age, and I just couldn't get it out of my mind. And then that desperation of trying to get to him when he was in school, and it was locked down because of the threat. And we all thought, oh, well, at least, little kids have been murdered, so now they'll do something. It's obvious we don't need assault rifles out on the streets, available to everyone and their mom. But nope. Here we are. So we'll dive into the updates. I see some more folks trickling in. Yeah, Robert says, when I was in school, you never heard of anything like Sandy Hook. Yeah, Columbine was the first shooting that was kind of in my consciousness. I was in high school. What year was that? 1999. I think Columbine was 1999. So I graduated high school in 2002. If that gives you a sense of how old I was there. And, it was horrifying. It was scary. I had never seen anything like that. But it's happened so many times since. And when we thought, oh, Sandy Hook will change things, it hasn't. So smash the like button, share this stream. We're going to dive right into it. Let's do a quick refresher, because 2012 is a long time ago. And I hate to say it, I hate to put it this way, but it's easy to get the facts of the different cases mixed up. Like, where was this school shooting? Oh, where was this school shooting? Oh, when was that one? And which weapons were used where? So let's just do a quick refresher about Sandy Hook, the Sandy Hook school shooting. So we're all on the same page. And then we'll talk about this disgusting way that the now essentially dissolved Remington gun manufacturer is suing, or excuse me, is responding to suit by the families of murdered victims. It's absolutely unbelievable. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but you will be disgusted. Spoiler alert, this is fodder for the conspiracy theorists. As I told you, I followed every single bit of information, every single bit of news that came out about Sandy Hook, about Newtown. I wanted to know everything. I didn't want anything to skip by me, because I guess in my mind, I thought this will help me keep my kids safer. If I know this, then potentially, it could help and prevent this in other schools. I don't know what I was thinking. It wasn't quite rational, but it was like, I need to know everything. So I even followed the conspiracy theories, like these things that wacky people were saying about what so-called actually happened at Sandy Hook. I would read those things, and obviously, when you actually search for truth and fact, those things are easily debunked. But I wanted to know what everyone was saying. I wanted to know everything, absolutely everything. And subversively says this was an elementary school. Yes, it was an elementary school. So I want you to keep in mind this time frame. So this was a time where, school shootings were common, they were happening, but never anything like this. Never anything in an elementary school with these tiny, tiny, tiny kids. The way it happened was weird. Adam Lanza, even looking at photos of him is just creepy. I don't know how you can look at a photo of Adam Lanza and just not get completely creeped out. There's just something wrong there. It's horrifying and scary and horrible. So that is a good segue into saying, if you feel like you're going to be triggered by what I'm talking about, then maybe don't watch or turn certain parts off, or maybe just listen instead of looking, because some of the sources or things we're going to be talking about are a little bit more graphic or potentially triggering. So just beware, okay? Because we're all in a state right now where it's difficult to wrap your head around all of the things that are happening. And this brings us back into a very, very dark and scary place. So Colin, if you can open up the CNN Sandy Hook Elementary shooting, what happened article, please. This is just some background. So at Sandy Hook Elementary School, 26 people, 20 students and 6 adults were shot and killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut on December 14th. And again, that's 2012. So this was an earlier kind of summary. So keep that in mind if you choose to read it later. But essentially, before he went into the school, he actually killed his mother, Nancy Lanza. And Nancy Lanza is important, well, obviously because this is Adam Lanza's mother, but also because in reading the facts and reading who, owned these guns that were used, she was very complicit in having this dangerous person, Adam Lanza. She's complicit in giving him access to extraordinarily dangerous weapons. And again, at some point before he went into the school, so this would have been in the morning, he murdered his mother, Nancy Lanza, and I believe she was in her bed. So he grabbed 3 guns from the house: a semi-automatic AR-15 assault rifle made by Bushmaster. So this is a Remington. The AR-15 is a Remington, and pistols made by Glock and Sig Sauer. And went to the elementary school wearing black fatigues and a military vest. And this is according to law enforcement. So they, let me see if you can see it. Yeah. So what they show, they said these are similar to what was found there. So classes were underway at Sandy Hook. There were about 700 students there, and the principal, Hochsprung, had ordered a new security system that required visitors to be identified and buzzed in. So the doors would lock at 9:30 a.m. And so the door was locked when Adam Lanza arrived. So he actually ended up shooting. And this is a very famous photo, if you can picture it, where the front entrance to the elementary school is shot out, the whole front window. So the principal heard loud pops, and she and the school psychologist, Mary Sherlock, and vice principal Natalie Hammond went out to investigate. Hammond was wounded. The other were murdered. And then at about 9:30 a.m., as announcements were read over the loudspeaker, shots were heard across the school. Students described being ushered into bathrooms and closets by teachers after hearing first shots. Lanza moved toward 2 classrooms of kindergartners and first graders. In one classroom was Lauren Rousseau, a substitute teacher who was filling in for a teacher out on maternity leave. The gunman shot all 14 students in the classroom. In another classroom, Victoria Soto, 27, moved her first grade students away from the door. The gunman burst in and shot her, according to the father of a surviving student. 6 students were killed in that classroom. So first responders arrive at the police station. Dispatchers began to take calls from inside the school. Authorities say the first emergency call about the shooting came in at approximately 9:30 a.m. Sandy Hook school caller is indicating she thinks someone is shooting in the building. A dispatcher told fire and medical personnel, according to 911 tapes. The first officer arrived on the scene of the Sandy Hook school shooting 2 minutes and 41 seconds after the first police radio broadcast of the shooting. Police report that no law enforcement officers discharged their weapons at any point. The gunman took his own life. He took out a handgun and shot himself in a classroom as law enforcement officers approached. 20 students, ages 6 and 7, and 6 adults were killed at the school. Police secured the building, ensuring no other shooters were on site. Police then escorted students and faculty out of the building to a nearby firehouse. As reports of the shooting made their way around town, frantic parents descended on the firehouse where the children had been taken. By nightfall, the firehouse became a gathering point for parents and family members whose loved ones would never walk out of the school. Those details are obviously devastating they were devastating to hear the first time around. They're devastating to go back over to reemphasize. And if you do think back, think about the frenzy around the news at that time. So there were different, at first, Ryan Lanza, the brother, was taken into custody. And I believe he was in New York City that morning. So he was first taken into custody. And so people were thinking, okay, was this the shooter? What's happening? Why is he in New York City? Like, why is this guy from New York City being arrested? More information came out. Eyewitnesses and witness statements are unreliable. They just are. The way the human memory works, the way the human mind works, that's just the case. That's just a fact. So you often hear in these early stages facts that aren't correct, such as, oh, the shooter is running away in the woods. There's another shooter and he's running away in the woods. Well, that's not what happened. There wasn't another suspected shooter, but that came out in the news. And so people would talk about that. And so out of these things that were reported or talked about or misidentified or whatever, came this conspiracy culture that really ramped up for Newtown, for Sandy Hook. So any kind of discrepancies, anytime the police or the media would make a correction, people started to think, oh, there's something fishy here. Maybe it wasn't really Adam Lanza, or maybe it wasn't the way that they're saying it happened, or whatever. Colin, if you can put up the disclaimer while I say this next part. So this, I want you guys to know, is what happened before I say this next part, because it's disgusting. So after murdering his mother at their home, Adam Lanza fatally shot 20 children and 6 adults at Sandy Hook Elementary School before taking his own life. It was one of the deadliest school shootings in U.S. history. And so just leave it up for right now, Colin. So I want this to be up so that YouTube doesn't try to, so that the folks at YouTube are very clear on what I'm saying. Some people, some conspiracy theorists, decided to take it to a whole new level, saying there weren't not actually any bodies, that there were crisis actors. They would pick apart videos of the parents and say, well, this dad was laughing before he spoke. They would say, oh, Adam Lanza didn't exist, or Adam Lanza was brainwashed, or MK Ultra'd, or if this were real, then why weren't the paramedics, up closer? Where were the body bags? There were videos played on a loop of parents walking around the firehouse, seemingly just kind of rotating around. There was a lot of obfuscation of fact, sometimes on purpose. And then as things do, they took off and went in a really bad direction. So much so that some conspiracy theorists tried to quiz parents, for example, parents of murdered children, about whether or not their kids were actually murdered. So they would say, these conspiracy theorists would say, I don't believe that your child actually ever existed. Prove it. Or, I think that you guys were paid off. They were looking to see who got a different house, or who was moving and who was staying, and what these parents and these families were doing. There was one family where 2 little girls were different ages, but they looked pretty similar. So conspiracy theorists latched on to that to say, oh, look, they pretended, they manufactured there being 2 little girls, but that's wrong. There's just one. Again, all of those things are incorrect. They're fake. Those things are fake. But parents were harassed in really disgusting ways, online and off. Yes, I see some folks in the comments talking about Alex Jones. 100%. Alex Jones and many others were basically saying that this wasn't real, that this was fake. Colin, you can take the disclaimer down. Thank you. So I want you guys to know that this background, this conspiracy theorist background. Now, I am someone who reads conspiracy theories. I absolutely think that there are true conspiracies. JFK, of course. And we have documents and information that things that, the government told us or the official story told us wasn't the case. I absorb information, and I think that's a good thing. I absorb information and filter out what's fact, what's real, what's not, what's probable, what's not. Unequivocally, I want to make very clear, Sandy Hook was real. Those children died. Adam Lanza murdered those children. Can I say, anything other than those facts? No, I can't. There's a lot of speculation to be had about Adam Lanza and why he was in that space. There's a lot of speculation that can be done, but the facts have to remain the facts. And what these families have gone through over these years is a horrible, and disgusting and unimaginable. Your child, your 6 or 7-year-old child, gets murdered in a disgusting way, in a devastating way. Children blown, and I apologize for the harshness of the phrasing here, children blown to bits. Several different shots taken at single children. And on top of that suffering that these families, that these parents have to go through, they get harassed by these conspiracy theorists, these folks that Alex Jones and the like sent after these families. Now, Alex Jones says, oh, he's just a performance artist. This is all just performance art. Well, I don't care what it is. It's sparking a lot of disgusting and horrible things to families who are suffering. So I wanted everybody, as we talk about this, to have in mind that there are people out there who think that these children never existed, or that they're actually still alive if they did exist, or that there are crisis actors or whatever. So these people are out there. That's an important thing to keep in mind as we talk about what Remington, the gun manufacturer company of the assault rifle, is doing. Colin, if you could pull up the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence is what Adam Lanza took and didn't take to Sandy Hook Elementary. Okay, so this just really quickly, because if you're like me, you might not know weapons really well. I don't know anything about weapons, none at all. So here is what Adam Lanza reportedly had available to him on that day. And this is out of csgv.org. With the release of an investigative report by the state's attorney for the Judicial District of Danbury in November, we now have a clear picture of the firearms used by Adam Lanza in the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School on December 14th, 2012. We also have a clear picture of the weapons he left at home that terrible day. The difference in the two inventories is telling and belies disinformation frequently put out by the gun lobby about the lethality of different types of firearms. Adam Lanza, of course, was extremely well-versed in weapons and had been shooting since age 4. The Lanza home was a virtual arsenal with guns and ammunition everywhere. Law enforcement even found a gun safe in Adam's bedroom. The following is a complete accounting of all the firearms, magazines, and ammunition that was available to Adam Lanza on December 14th, 2012. All of this material had been legally purchased by Nancy Lanza. So what he actually took to Sandy Hook, you'll have to forgive me if I mispronounce these gun names. So he took a 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun, the Bushmaster semi-automatic rifle, Glock 20, Sig Sauer P226. So the one that we're focused on here is going to be the Bushmaster in this lawsuit. So additional weapons found in the Lanza home, additional rifles. To Sandy Hook, he took 2 12-gauge shotgun magazines, 10 30-round 22 magazines, 6 30-round 9mm magazines, and 6 30-round 10mm magazines, and a ton additional ammunition, 20 12-gauge shotgun rounds, 301 rounds of whatever .233 caliber ammunition, and on and on. So found in Lanza home, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. This list of weapons that were in the Lanza home is insane. What regular American family needs all of that ammunition, needs all of those bullets, needs all of those many different types of guns? That doesn't make any sense. When Adam killed his sleeping, and this is at the bottom under the list, when Adam killed his sleeping, defenseless mother as she lay in bed, his choice of weapon was the Savage Mark II, the second 22 caliber rifle, a bolt-action firearm that can accept a 10-round magazine. When it came time to travel to Sandy Hook to commit mass murder and potentially expose himself to harm from responding law enforcement, Lanza discarded the Savage rifle and turned to the Bushmaster, a semi-automatic rifle that he equipped with 30-round magazines so as to cut down on the number of times he would have to reload. All of the firearms Adam took to Sandy Hook were semi-automatic weapons with detachable ammunition magazines. As with his Bushmaster, Adam equipped his handguns with high-capacity 30-round magazines. Let's see. After the mass shooting in Aurora, Colorado on July 20th, 2012, and that was the James Holmes shooting, I believe, National Rifle Association board member Ted Nugent claimed you could do more damage with a single shot or bolt action because he had 20 minutes. His AR-15 Smith & Wesson rifle is now the most popular sporting rifle in America. It is the #1 competition, #1 in self-defense. It's the #1 sporting rifle for big game and small game. And if they keep calling it an assault weapon, I may have that aneurysm. Nugent was wrong on several points. For starters, the Aurora shooting lasted less than 2 minutes, and police arrived on the scene in just 90 seconds after the first call. More importantly, despite the gun lobby's best attempts at marketing, the AR-15 is not a sporting rifle. It is a weapons platform that was designed for battlefield use and marketed to militaries around the world for that purpose. The only functional difference between the civilian and military versions of the AR-15 is that the civilian version only fires in the semi-automatic position and not on full auto, but that is still a rapid rate of fire, as fast as you can repeatedly pull the trigger. Mass shooters, of course, are aware of the rifle's lethality. Adam Lanza, for his part, had compiled a doctoral thesis of past mass shootings, complete with details on the firearms and magazines used in each incident. Mother Jones conducted an analysis of mass shootings that occurred between 1982 and 2012 and found that more than half of all mass shooters possessed high-capacity ammunition magazines, assault weapons, or both. So, I mean, I don't even know how anybody could argue that Adam Lanza, Nancy Lanza needed all those weapons and all those bullets, all that ammunition. No, he didn't. He didn't. And you'll see, we'll get into how Remington, how these gun companies advertise and how they create and stir up this gun culture in America. And I believe that Sandy Hook lasted about 6 minutes in total. All of those children, all of those people wouldn't have died if that weapon wasn't available to Adam Lanza. It just wouldn't have happened the same way. So let's look at this lawsuit. Gun industry lawsuit, and this column is the Business and Human Rights Resource Center link. Let's look at this lawsuit, which has been going since 2014, because the families decided to sue the manufacturer. They decided to sue Remington because they feel that they're complicity, or excuse me, that they're complicit. Based on the way they advertise, based on the culture they create, based on the lobbying, gun lobbying. So this kind of goes through just a bit of the history here. The gun industry lawsuit regarding the Sandy Hook shooting in the United States. So in February 2014, relatives of victims of the Sandy Hook shooting filed a lawsuit in the United States against the gun manufacturer Bushmaster Firearms, part of Remington Outdoor, the distributor of Camphor Inc., and the East Windsor gun shop that sold the assault rifle. The plaintiffs argue that the way in which these companies sold and marketed the military-style weapon to the civilian market is a form of negligence that makes them liable for the wrongful deaths of the children killed during the shooting. Remington denied the accusations. The case is ongoing. So after they filed this, in April 2016, a judge ruled that the case could proceed, rejecting the defendant's motions to dismiss. In October 2016, the Connecticut Superior Court dismissed the case based on the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, ruling that the companies could not be held liable for harm caused solely by the criminal misuse of a weapon. In March 2017, the victims' families filed a brief in the state Supreme Court seeking to reinstate their lawsuit against the gun manufacturer. In May 2017, the gun manufacturers asked the Connecticut Supreme Court to dismiss the case. They argued that only the shop that sold the gun could face a negligent entrustment suit, but that it would not be successful as the shop followed the law in selling the gun. In March 2019, the Connecticut Supreme Court revived the lawsuit, saying that the families could sue for wrongful marketing under the Connecticut Unfair Trade Practices Act. In April 2019, Remington asked the U.S. Supreme Court to hear the case and decide if gun manufacturers should be held accountable for crimes committed with their products. In March 2020, a Connecticut judge denied gunmaker Remington's request to access the Sandy Hook shooter's psychological and medical records. The court ruled these could not be disclosed due to laws protecting patient privacy. In June 2020, Remington asked for the lawsuit to be dismissed on the grounds that no facts presented in the complaint connected its marketing to the shooting. And then in July of 2020, Remington Outdoor filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. So what this means is that the Remington is being represented by these insurance companies instead of Remington itself, because Remington has filed for this bankruptcy and essentially dissolved. So on the 26th of July, 2021, a Connecticut Superior Court judge denied the company's request to dismiss the lawsuit. A few days later, the company offered some of the victims' families nearly $33 million to settle their lawsuit. The settlements were offered by Iron Shore and James River, two of Remington's insurers. So let's go through some of these ads to talk a little bit about what these families are saying when it comes to Remington's complicity. If you can open up, Colin, the Mother Jones Papa Says It Safe link, please. So this is just a little example of some gun ads. The first one there, where it says, "Consider your man card reissued." That is an ad for the Bushmaster rifle. So again, this is what we're talking about here. The next ad says, "Its evolution took a century, adaptation seconds." This is Bushmaster again. So those top ones are really the most relevant here. And I just want you to see, like, that is the vibe. That is the vibe here. Of course, no one is saying that these advertisements caused Adam Lanza to shoot up an elementary school. No, of course not. But this is all part of the culture surrounding gun ownership and marketing these guns to kind of play up the manhood aspect. Like, oh, this is badass. This is, this is what real men have. We know that Nancy Lanza owned these guns legally, owned these weapons legally. And so that's part of the issue here. Is a gun manufacturer, and so they couldn't push this lawsuit on the other angles, such as, is this gun manufacturer who makes these weapons of war and sells them to everyday Americans, are they complicit? No, that the families weren't allowed to use that angle, essentially, because of protections built in for gun manufacturers. So they had to go the route of thinking about how guns are advertised, which of course is not fair, to put it mildly. Colin, next, can you open the NPR link, please, where it says gunmaker offers Sandy Hook families $33 million. So this is kind of where we were a month before last. Gunmaker offers Sandy Hook families $33 million. And remember, this has been ongoing. Oh, Sandy Hook happened in 2012. This lawsuit's been ongoing since 2014. So here's where we are. It's taken all these years. Gunmaker offers Sandy Hook families $33 million. Here's what they may be considering. The offer, presented by the now bankrupt gunmakers in court documents on Tuesday, comes just a day after a judge denied the company's request to dismiss the lawsuit. However, the sum falls far short of what families have previously said they expected. In court documents earlier this year, they argued that wrongful death settlements could reach $225 million and expected total punitive claims could exceed $1 billion. The offer this week would distribute only about $3.7 million to each family. A lawyer for the families told the BBC they would consider their next steps. Jury selection is scheduled for September, which obviously is coming right up. But wouldn't you know it, Remington decides to get dirty, or the shell of what Remington once was decided to get dirty. Colin, if you can open up the Sandy Hook families aim to keep school records sealed. NBC, Connecticut. This is what happened now. So the last one was at the end of July, where this $33 million, which wasn't enough, was offered. But now Remington's taking it to the dirtiest possible levels that I can imagine. Sandy Hook families aim to keep school records sealed after Remington Arms files subpoena. A Bushmaster AR-15 style rifle made by Remington Arms was used to kill 20 first graders and 6 educators at the Newtown, Connecticut school on December 14, 2012. Several families suing Remington Arms filed a motion to keep school records sealed for 5 children and 4 educators who died in the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. In a recent subpoena, Remington Arms petitioned the court to release what Sandy Hook parents' lawyer Joshua Koskoff calls protected information. This includes employment files as well as kindergarten and first grade educational records, the motion stated. According to the motion, Remington Arms' request calls for the records of Jesse Lewis, Daniel Barden, Dylan Hockley, Benjamin Wheeler, and Noah Posner, the 5 school children whose parents are a part of the lawsuit. The firearm company's subpoena also calls for the records of Rachel Marie Davino, Lauren Russo, Mary Joy Sherlock, and Victoria Soto, all educators killed in the elementary school shooting. Let's think about this for a second here. Remington is asking for the records of dead children, of children who were murdered at the ages of 6 and 7. They want their attendance records. They want their report cards, their disciplinary records. Why? Why does Remington want that? What does it matter if one of the children got an A or a C, or, at that young age, often they don't even use numbers. They use 1, 2, and 3. So why did Remington want that information? Why did it matter if the child maybe had the flu for a week and was out of school? Why does that have any relevance at all to this case, to this lawsuit? It doesn't. And you know whose ears perked up as soon as they heard this? You know whose ears perked up as soon as they heard that Remington wanted these records? The conspiracy theorists' ears perked up. Because it sure sounds like Remington wants this proof of these children, or at least this is how conspiracy theorists are taking it. Remember, some of these folks, in really disgusting ways, denied that these children ever existed. And so in checking on these conspiracy theorists, these same old folks who've been pushing this for many, many years, they're loving this. They're loving what Remington is asking for, because it gives them the opportunity to introduce more doubt and to kind of sway people to their side or whatever. There are some very mentally ill people who seem to have this vested interest in keeping this going and making people think that this was a hoax or whatever. They're denying the reality of what actually happened here. And what Remington is asking for only makes that worse. What Remington is asking for makes no sense. All that matters is Remington's complicity in this case, in this very specific case, because it's all they can go forward with, how Remington advertises and the effects that has. Why does Remington need this information? It is baffling. It is disgusting. I don't know how else you explain it. I don't know how else you explain why Remington needs attendance records of kindergartners and first graders and needs their grades. Needs to know if they were on grade level reading, Remington. You need to know if that child maybe needed some extra help with math. Does that really matter to you, Remington? What's the reason? Again, a lot of conspiracy theorists seem to think that it's helpful to their case in trying to prove that there's something off here, or that this didn't actually happen, or that this was a hoax, or whatever. The fact that Remington is pushing this is incredibly shocking. And Colin, if you can open the document, civil inquiry, and at the top it has Soto v. Bushmaster, and then motion to modify protective order. Awesome. So this is a filing that shares more detail into what we're talking about. Motion to modify protective order to protect children's educational records, educators' work records, and to delete obsolete protections for Remington's proprietary information. The current protective order lists 8 categories of protectable information. 7 of those 8 categories are designed to protect Remington's proprietary business information from disclosure. Only 1 protects information disclosed by the plaintiffs. The plaintiffs seek expansion of the categories of protected information in light of 2 recent subpoenas issued by Remington. One of those subpoenas directed to the Newtown Public School District to release Remington employment files of the 4 educators whose deaths are at issue here. In addition to employment files of the adult decedents, Remington also subpoenaed the school district to produce the kindergarten and first grade educational records of Jesse Lewis, Daniel Barden, Dylan Hockley, Benjamin Wheeler, and Noah Posner, the 5 school children for whom claims have brought in this case. There is no conceivable way that these children's application and admission paperwork, attendance records, transcripts, report cards, and disciplinary records, to name only some of the things sought by the subpoena, will assist Remington in its defense. And the plaintiffs do not understand why Remington would invade the family's privacy with such a request. Nonetheless, this personal and private information has been produced to Remington. So to make it clear, they did hand over this information to Remington. The plaintiffs therefore move the court to expand the categories of protected information to include private educational, employment, and medical records and information. The plaintiffs also seek to delete protections for Remington's proprietary information that are now obsolete. With regard to documents that Remington had claimed as confidential and that the plaintiffs had relied on and redacted from 2 recent motions for commission. So yeah, that kind of gives you some more background on what on earth is going on here and how baffling it was to be asked for that. Colin, if you can pull up the Vice article, Remington subpoenas report cards. It's really, really just absurd. It's crazy that this is happening. Remington subpoenas report cards of 5 children killed in Sandy Hook shooting. So as part of a lawsuit defense, the company that made the guns used in the Sandy Hook shooting demanded the disciplinary and attendance records of dead children. So that part we've already talked about. So just so you know, this is what the timeline was. This was back in mid-July. The defense served a subpoena, so this is Remington, on the Newtown Public School District seeking any and all educational records in your possession, including but not limited to application administration paperwork, attendance records, transcripts, report cards, disciplinary records, correspondence, and all other educational information and records pertaining to each of the 5 first graders whose estates are plaintiffs in the case. There is no conceivable way that these records will assist Remington in its defense, as we just read. And again, they did hand over the information. And they also, Remington subpoenaed employment records of 4 teachers who were killed in the shooting. So Remington also has done disgusting, weird things. Like Remington previously responded to a discovery request for its internal company communications by producing more than 18,000 unsorted files containing memes, cartoons, and ice bucket challenge videos. We have no explanation for why Remington subpoenaed the Newtown Public School District to obtain the kindergarten and first grade academic attendance and disciplinary records of these 5 school children. Josh Kossoff, one of the lawyers representing the Sandy Hook parents, told Motherboard. The records cannot possibly excuse Remington's egregious marketing conduct or be of any assistance in estimating the catastrophic damages in this case. The only relevant part of their attendance records is that they were at their desks on December 14th, 2012, which makes complete sense. What doesn't make sense is what Remington is doing. And if Remington is acting in good faith, why are they sending memes and ice bucket challenge videos as part of this case? 18,000? Yeah, that's because they don't take it seriously. They clearly do not care about these 20 children who were murdered. They don't care. And America seems to not care. At the very least, America's politicians don't care. So, yeah, I guess I see that at least one person is spreading disgusting conspiracy theories. No, that's not acceptable at all. You're diminishing what happened. I think part of it's psychological. And I've long thought this, why are there so many people who even closetly believe that Sandy Hook wasn't right or didn't happen or whatever? I think because psychologically it is so horrible to think about 26 and 7-year-olds being murdered that people take their mind to another place. Like it's more comforting to believe that it didn't happen that it was just part of the government, or it was an operation, or it was part of, an experiment, or whatever. It's more comforting perhaps to think that than to think, oh, we have a huge problem. We have weapons of war that are available to a Nancy Lanza, who makes it easily available to an Adam Lanza. We have a country where gun manufacturers are allowed to advertise in the way that Remington has advertised the AR-15. We know that fewer would have been murdered that day if not for that weapon. I think it's important to try to understand people's psychology. At least that's what comforts me. Like, I want to know what makes people make someone, what could make someone do this, first of all. So I want to understand Adam Lanza's psychology. I also want to understand the psychology of Nancy Lanza, who, I mean, it's very clear that there is something very wrong with Adam Lanza. So why would she make those weapons so readily available to him? And I want to know what makes, an Alex Jones tick, and who knows? I think that's unanswerable unless we find some stuff out in a few years. But I want to know, for those who truly look to these theories or whatever, why? And I really do think that for some people it is about comfort, and it is simply easier to believe that than it is to believe that this happened. But it did happen. A lot of children died that day. A lot of 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds died that day. A lot of very beloved family members, adults, educators died that day. And so here we have Remington trying to wiggle out of it. And someone made the point, they're sending, it's off my screen now, but that they're sending so many documents, including the Ice Bucket Challenge videos and memes and stuff, to hide relevant and important information. No doubt. Absolutely. We've seen similar things with Flint. Information being submitted as part of requests, things are withheld, or things are altered, or things are changed. I cannot even imagine being one of these parents who is still fighting. These families want to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And we should all be behind them. I cannot believe that we're still, in this space almost 10 years later, and nothing has changed. So I'm not going to cover any more stories today. Again, I'm not feeling super great. If anyone has any last minute comments or questions, go for it. Andrew Gillis says, maybe lawyers noticed the Sandy Hook kids choir at the Super Bowl. I did, and was creeped out. Yeah, because people were so deeply entrenched in these conspiracy theories. So if you were at that time reading those conspiracy theories, then you probably thought what people were saying, because it was easier to believe that. So what this person is talking about is some Sandy Hook kids sang at the Super Bowl that following Super Bowl time. And some people were saying oh, those are the kids, or something wrong with the kids, whatever. But it's all BS, Leslie Wheeler, $10 super sticker. Thank you. Gene Rosen, the gentleman who helped the kids. March says, like, people can't be brainwashed or activated. The mother trained him and gave him access to guns. Who was she connected to? So I never think, March, I never think it's a bad thing to truly look into something. Of course, we know that, you know, there have been experiments on people, but we don't have any evidence that that happened in this case. So look into it. But, you know, if there's no evidence of XYZ, you can't, you know, it can't be said. Garden Boots says, so sorry you're suffering with COVID. Long haulers, Jen, hang in there, sending love. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Cheryl says, I send you golden healing light, Jen. Feel better soon. Thank you. Yeah, Sandy Hook's always important to me to cover and to try to keep in people's consciousness, because it should have been it. That should have been it. Why are we still here in this place? And I think even a lot of leftists think differently these days than they used to. Like, I know some leftists who are like completely 100% anti-gun, but then after all that's happened in the last 5 years or so, they're, you know, I've heard some folks saying like, well, you know, I think it's okay to protect yourself, which I understand. I don't like guns. I have done target shooting and stuff like that. But I don't like it. I hate it. I really, really hate it. And the area where I live is rural, and people like collect guns, and people go hunting, and people do whatever. So that to me is a very different category than doing something about assault rifles. Lana Dell hates the clock. $20 super sticker. Thank you, Lana. You guys are amazing. Henry says, I hope status quo will cover the Occupy Congress protests going on right now in DC. Yeah, we'll have to see how it kind of shakes out. My kids just started school, and I haven't been feeling great, so I haven't been able to get there. But definitely monitoring what's going on. Socials Girl says, I hate guns too, and think it should be difficult for people to get them. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it really, really should have like a lot of steps in order to get a gun. You shouldn't be able to just, you know, buy one through these loopholes or whatever. I know some folks around where I live who've easily gotten crazy guns. Clay Hoshi says, if someone makes a claim, it should be supported by evidence. Skepticism is an approach to claims, and it's useful to look into things, but hollow speculation and conspiracies aren't useful. Yeah, I agree. If someone makes a claim, it should be supported by evidence. I think in some cases, you know, it's okay for sure to have a hunch about something and to kind of follow your nose or whatever, to know the history of things. But in the end, facts and evidence matter. And so maybe I'm thinking of this current investigation that Jordan and I are doing right now. And so like we definitely know kind of an answer to something, but we haven't found the evidence needed to report it yet. So that's not a direct like corresponding situation, but it what I'm trying to illustrate is, you know, evidence, even if you know or believe in your heart that something's true or whatever, you still have to kind of do your due diligence and make sure. Oh my gosh. Jen, take blank medicine. I think that was a joke because someone said she already has. I already have. I did not go to the feed store. However, I had a doctor. I won't tell you how I got it, but a doctor did prescribe it. It didn't work for me. It's like such this argument, like, ugh, it drives me bananas. I could go on forever about this. Talking about the I word, the I medicine. IVER. That's what I'm talking about. So it's like, I would love if it would work. That would be fantastic. That would be amazing. How wonderful would it be to have a relatively inexpensive medication that works for this? The problem is that the studies that folks are citing are not great. They're either not great or they're based on something that's been retracted. Like people sharing around this like aggregate study, and the study authors like, oh no, we retracted this, and people keep sharing it and using it as their point. I think it definitely is part of, you know, your doctor and you. But people should not be going to the feed store. They shouldn't be going to the freaking 84 lumber. I don't know if you guys have those wherever you live. 84 lumber. What's that like tractor supply? I don't know. There's like tractor stores around here. The point is, don't go to one of those. And the folks who are so like mad about this are just refusing the vaccine, and I just can't. People are married to like their idea of what things are supposed to be, and are so like obsessed with being right and being on the right side. Like confirmation bias is a huge thing. Yeah, Koyoshi says, LOL, I can't imagine being like, I won't trust this vaccine, so I'll go down to the country feed store and take some horse dewormer. And people are actually doing it. Don't do it, guys. Don't do it. No, don't do it. Like, yeah, try things like take vitamin D. There have been some promising studies done on vitamin D as part of protocols. It's, you know, there are studies out there. There are things to try. There are supplements to try, but the idea that this IVER medicine is the be all end all, and that people are like willing to cancel each other over over it, is like, just no, guys, just stop. People are really wearing me down lately. I think it's because we're all in a space, a psychological, a mental space where things are bad. Things are real bad. But that's okay, because we're all in this together. We're all hanging out together. Carne Verde says, IVER's studies have been shown to come from super shady claims. Yeah, so there's one study in particular that was like really super fudged and was used to make some declarations, and it had to be withdrawn. Henry says, my doctor prescribed vitamin D for me several years ago. Yeah, so I mean, if it's a reasonable precaution to take, like, yeah, I think, you know, ask your doctor. I'm not a doctor, but I think in general, especially if you don't get outside much or whatever, like being deficient in vitamin D is not a good thing. And it's, you know, there's vitamin D supplements that are readily available. So if it's a reasonable thing, even if we don't know how effective it is, if it's like a reasonable thing that has some promising early studies, I'm not going to tell you to do it. I'm not going to like develop the gen protocol and tell you what you should do. But I think if it's reasonable and we have some good info, then why not? Talk to your doctor. People are learning. I'm getting treated by the Johns Hopkins COVID long hauler clinic. And so these are some of the top people in the world in this area, in this new and developing area. But they don't know. They don't have the answers. Nobody really has the answers right now. What we do know is that the vaccine does work. It's so dishonest when people are like, oh, the vaccine doesn't work. It's people who have the vaccine are just as likely to, pass it to others and stuff. So what they're doing is they're lying with statistics, because when you have the vaccine, your symptoms are likely to be much less bothersome, and you are much less likely to end up in the hospital. You're less likely to do things like sneeze or cough or whatever that could get someone else sick. So sure, you can say things a certain way to make it sound like vaccines don't work or whatever, but that's dishonest, and that's not the truth. It makes me really upset that people are lying about the vaccines, because that's truly the information we do have, is that these vaccines work for now. And unfortunately, because people won't get their vaccines, things are evolving, and we're getting different kinds of strains. We're getting different strains, and we'll see how that shakes out with the vaccine. They might need to go back and keep figuring some things out because of how this is developing, and because people refuse to get the vaccine. Yeah, and some of these people talking about, like Rudy getting Regeneron and things like that. A lot of these wealthier people getting COVID get the top treatments, the best treatments. Like Joe Rogan's driving me crazy right now, because he's like, well, I took IVER, I took, this, that, and the other. And because he had like the top cocktail, it probably had nothing to do with ivermectin. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical expert. I hope it did. It would be great if it did, but it's much more likely that it was the other treatments, the ones that have been shown to actually help some. It's funny, these people who think COVID is fake, COVID's not real, whatever. But then as soon as they get it, they're ready to throw the whole kitchen sink at it, when we could just all get the vaccine. And the vaccine passport thing drives me crazy too, because we've all gone to elementary school, and you have to submit your vaccine papers. Going to foreign countries, you have to get certain shots and prove that you did. You have to get physicals for schools and camps or whatever. Like, this isn't new. This is not new. Your rights and freedoms are not being taken away. Your rights and freedoms are not being taken away. They're already gone, but this is not taking them away further. We need to keep each other safe. People are talking about drugs now. The line to get into the feed store I just passed is back up all the way down the block. And that's the thing too, like on the other side of this, when people like twist the truth, they make it easier for people to wiggle away. So like when some people are like, oh, why are people taking horse medication? Like, why are people taking horse dewormer? And that's their only arguing point. Well, then it's easy to respond to that and say, actually, they do make it for humans too. So it's not helpful at all to just like try to dunk on people because they're using animal medication, because yeah, it is approved for some human uses. It is certainly not approved for COVID use at all. It's not. It's not. So I hope you are all doing really well. Tomorrow we will be doing our Rockfin exclusive, and I think we're going to stay on the 9/11 kick. Unfortunately, I was not able to be on because I wasn't feeling well, but last week Jordan had Robbie Martin on, Abby Martin's brother, about Rudy Giuliani and anthrax. So rockfin.com/status coup to check that out. And tomorrow we're gonna talk about 9/11. I gotta tell Jordan my ideas, my angles, but it's stuff that's not safe for YouTube. So I don't know, not safe for YouTube, whatever that acronym is what's going to be on Rockfin. So rockfin.com/status coup. We are also going to be putting up transcripts from the Robbie episode, from whatever tomorrow. And we want to make sure that all of you guys who are members through our website or through the YouTube are getting your full value as well. We will be talking about our next members call, etc., all of that. So I'm going to go rest up. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Even though the news is depressing, even though the news is horrible, keep your head up. We're going to fight the good fight. We're going to fight for truth. We're going to fight for other people. And we're going to help each other out along the way. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.